Hey everybody, welcome. What show is this? It's Only Stupid Answers. It's our 400th episode. It's our 150th episode. Well, we're celebrating our 400th episode. We're celebrating our 150th episode of OSA Live. We're celebrating 8 years. And who has been your host the bulk of those 8 years? It's been me, DJ Wooldridge. With me, as always, is Roxy Stryer. Hello, Roxy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I feel like that graduation music should play. Dun, 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 and we hand out.
No, but that means we're moving
it's over.
on.
Something else is happening. Which,
I should hand out stuff to you guys. We're trying
to the awards.
Yeah, we're trying. We're shaking stuff up. It's been 8 years. We're shaking stuff up. But listen,
gotta.
And who's that other voice with us? It's the other part of our OSA triumvirate. Sal. Hello, Sal.
Hello.
You may know him more from Comic Pop. Links in the description.
I remember when OSA launched, and I was like, man, that's the dream. Look at those guys going off, making their thing. Smart move, smart money on those gentlemen. I remember when SourceFed inevitably, collapsed. I guess that's the way that's since I wasn't part of it, I could say collapsed. Was bought. And then
shenanigans, whatever. It's the same. Good news. It's the same thing that's happened to happening to every business all over the place now. So isn't that great?
It means it was successful.
It
lived long enough to see itself be consumed by itself. But that's wonderful. But because of that, like I remember the fallout, and I was like, look at who quickly, immediately started their stuff.
Yeah.
Like 70J, boom.
Yeah.
Brand, logos, camaraderie, show. I'm like, these guys know what's up.
Did you guys think about any other names at the time? Like when you guys, because it was so quick. I'm curious what the brainstorming session was, how long it was, what spaghetti did you throw at the wall?
We talked about, I'm a big name guy. A thing doesn't have a shape until I've named it. That's a big part of my creative process. Once it has a name, it has an identity. And so I took point on name. What did we talk about? We hit on Only Stupid Answers pretty quick because it's from the turn of phrase, there are no dumb questions, only stupid answers.
Yes.
And I think that was it. There were talks, especially with Sam and I, of like, does the name, but we were already hip deep in doing the show at this point. Does the name really apply to what we're doing? And it's like, well, too late. I don't know. It just sounded cool and we needed a name. And so that was the name. And I still like that name. I still think it's a good name. But I'm trying to think of other things.
Other pitches.
Yeah, I don't know that there were any other strong contenders. It was pretty much, I went to Sam and I was like, what about this? And he's like, sure. Sure, why not? Who cares? Who cares? All right, well, yeah. So
that works too.
Yeah.
Why the two of you guys, when you were there and you had that issue, why did you approach Sam? Did Sam approach you, or why was it the two of you guys of everybody?
Yeah. Did you go like, oh man, so first it'll be me and Sam, and then we're gonna get like Joe,
well,
and we're gonna get
it was Sam and I, because we were already doing whatever the superhero show. I had helped develop it was Superhero Roundup. Was that the first name? I helped develop a few shows for SourceFed, and that was one of them. And it was Sam and I, and so that was like the natural. We just had a good rapport, and and it's a good dynamic because it's specifically at the time I tended to be grumpier, crankier, and he tended to be more optimistic. Like, hey, this, excited about this stuff, and so we had a good dynamic going. And I like doing the show with him. And so that was, when it became clear, like maybe I should work on my own stuff, that was an easy ask. Unfortunately, he was down and it worked out.
Because I remember you would pop in like very early on where it's like DJ was the editor, but sometimes they'd be like, DJ has an opinion about this. Well, obviously put him on the apple cart, get him going. And so I got this impression that it was very like anyone could be a host of SourceFed at any time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very much, we had a lot of content to fill all the time, especially with Table Talk. Sure. And I was first brought on, there was a post, it might have been the first Comic-Con after I was hired. They were like, a lot of them were comic fans, but they weren't like active comic readers. Right. Where I was going to the shop pretty regularly and picking up my books.
Wednesday Warrior.
Yeah. So, and I still do. But so they brought me on for that. And so when it came time for stuff like that, I was brought on, although I was a part of, like they did, TV show. Wait, I actually think I think it's TV show was another show I co-created. There was a few that were like, I helped create, and they're like, thanks. Bye. But I was on some of their Breaking Bad coverage, stuff like that. I guess just to fill a slot. And I kind of liked that position. I liked being able to be brought on when it felt appropriate. Because I remember when they were bringing on new nerd hosts, and this might have also been just lack of confidence on my part of not wanting to actually like try and apply, because they were. And the other thing is, there's a lot of pressure with the hosts.
Oh sure.
Whereas with editing, all I had to be able to do was edit fast, and then. And truthfully, this is still true today, because if anybody goes to my personal channel, there's some videos of me talking directly to the camera and all that stuff. And I just don't like doing that stuff. I'd much rather do this.
Yeah.
Bring people I like on. Yep.
Can you guys see us?
Yeah.
That was in 2016.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's even
2016
also in 2016. You guys had me on a bunch. I started filling in, and then everything shut down.
Well, yeah, that's because we'd had you
really
on
missed out.
Superhero Roundup, and then and then when
and Matt Lieberman was my good friend at the time, and
because you guys were doing AfterBuzz, that was the connection there. Yeah, because Superhero Roundup was me, Sam, and Matt. And then Trisha was on. We had people on. Whenever we were able to pull hosts, and then
and Matt had been my buddy for a while from hosting. We were with this company, and then he was like, "Do you want to come do this?" And I remember at the time being like, "SourceFed is the it show. Like it's like the it channel. This is the place." And being scared crapless walking in, but DJ was cool. And Sam was cool too.
Yeah. Nice. And then you were doing Flash and Friends over at Screen Junkies.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then I thought when Sam and I were
talking, I was bringing Matt over there all the time. That's probably what happened. He was like, I guess I'll bring you on my show. You keep bringing me over on your show.
Yeah. And then so when Sam and I, after SourceFed went away, when Sam and I were like doing the Patreon, and obviously we need to figure out Patreon content. And that was at the height of Arrow, Flash, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., yada, 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 yada. All
golden age of content about content.
Yeah, exactly. And so...
You knew I was already watching it all.
Exactly. And so it was like, this would be a good opportunity to kind of like expand a little bit our kind of hosting pool to differentiate. And so that's when we did Super TV Showdown, which was our show.
T-shirts available.
Wherever we have a store. I think our store right now is only the OSA shirt, because that of the things I've been able to focus on, the store has not been the priority of.
It never is, man. I know exactly how you feel.
How much do you think this could go for? How much can you sell this for now?
Let us know in the comments.
I'm sure you could pay somebody to take that shirt if you wanted to.
It's a good one. It's soft.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Listen, I use this company. This is a next level shirt. Next level.
You can get this shirt I'm wearing today. I think there's still a link on the videos that you can get.
The shirt you're wearing is sick.
Yeah, and so then obviously during the pandemic, Sam kind of like decided to go off and do other things that were off camera.
Yep.
He and I have just been talking. He's just coming out of a pretty significant cold. So, send his, he's not on social media, but send your well wishes wherever they may go.
Into the universe.
Yeah. Into the universe, out there, good vibes, whatever. Roxy was fortunately willing and able to come on and start doing the show with me regularly. And then in the lead up to No Way Home, that's when I pitched Sal the idea of doing Spider-Verse, once again similar to Super TV Showdown, this idea of having our Patreon content be unique and special.
But how did that connection? I don't think I ever knew this. So it was because he had come into SourceFed once that you had any contact with him?
No, I think that was incidental. We didn't even know. Like, it was one of those things where you reached out to me, or rather maybe we had similar contacts. But
I think at some point we had you on with. Wait, you were never on when Sam was on?
I don't know. I feel like that's not.
I feel like
I was on an episode of Only
been
Stupid Answers. Maybe that was
Sam.
it.
I feel because I remember Sam being like, "Hey, there's this guy Sal. We should have him on." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it."
You knew Sam, Sal. You knew Sam. Okay.
I
Sam,
only knew through that experience.
Sam was dialed into this stuff.
I had Sam on my show one time.
Okay,
that might also be what happened.
Yeah. So Sam would often come to me and be like, "We should have this person on." He was much more dialed into the space than I have ever been.
Who to get?
Yeah. And so he was like, "Sal, if I recall correctly, I want to see if I can find the doc." I used to have like a major. No, this isn't. Oh yeah. Hold on.
While you're saying that, I want to let everybody know that I didn't realize how much larger I had gotten since 2016 until I put this on. Holy shit.
It might not be you. It might be the shirt. The shirt might have...
it shrank.
Hold on.
Because of the moisture from the humidity.
Exactly.
In California.
Exactly. And I grew from the cold when I go back and then it's back.
It's all about it's expansion, like wood,
No
warm
way.
Or cold.
I am wood.
No, we've had to, maybe you were on Super TV, Sal. I feel like
no, because I would have known if he was on Super TV.
That's a good point. Oh my goodness.
Unless I wasn't there that week and he filled in for me or something.
So I don't know. I feel like this is similar to like when we've had Hector on recently, where it was like, wait, when did we meet? When did we know? Anyway, so I don't know. I could swear. Well, I can tell you this. When did I have you on? Before Spider-Versity, I had you on something, and I'm like, yeah, that was good. That worked.
Right, that worked.
Yeah,
weird.
So maybe So I didn't have you on. No, this can't be right. Well, listen, we'll track it down. I don't want to be going through my docs on. Yeah. Do I not have one for? Wow, this is weird. Anyway, yeah. So then Spider-Verse and that brings us all to today, to this day, 400 episodes. Dude, I'm not finding you, man. You were on the show. I swear to God, you were on the show. I'm not Mandela affecting myself.
I think you're right. I think you're right, but I don't.
Wait, did we call you on for the 200th episode?
That sounds right.
Okay. Anyway.
Why would I be on the 200th?
Because we had a bunch of people. Listen, so I'm going through, and I'm a pretty good bookkeeper. All right, I'll tell the kids at home.
The audio one was that the one where we recorded?
Well, because that was the pandemic. That was, and so
that was on everything during the pandemic.
Yeah. That was the pandemic, and so it was one of those, like, our 100th episode. We did a live show. We did a whole thing. Roxy, you were a part of it. We had the Dynamic Banter Boys on and Mod, but for 200, that was during the pandemic, and so we couldn't do the same thing. But I think we had like a call-in episode where we had literally people call in. I did not do that for 300. I was like, I'm going to pre-record stuff for you with everybody, and I'm going to edit them in. That's the plan. That's what's happening. Right. But we actually had people call in. I think it ran 2 hours. It was crazy, and so maybe whatever. It doesn't matter. Sal's here now. That's what matters. That's what
matters is where we are.
Yeah. Support Comic Pop. Support World Girl. Support. Links in the description. All that jazz. I haven't even patreon.com/only stupid answers if you want to check out Spider-Versity. Although, speaking of Spider-Versity, I said this on the show, I'll say it here as well. Spider-Versity is going on hiatus. In Spider-Versity's slot, the Patreon exclusive slot will be Mutant Academy, where we're talking about X-Men the animated series. That will become, we're dropping some episodes on the YouTube channel, but moving forward, that will be Patreon exclusive. There will be a news show replacing Mutant Academy, where we're talking about Superman movies. But, Roxy hasn't been privy to this. We're in Spider-Versity. We're now in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which when I pitched it to Sal, that should be the next thing we should talk about. Seemed like a great idea.
We both were like, what a fun idea.
Yeah.
We have no idea what we're in for.
But the show is really hard. It's from 1981, but it feels like it was made in 1961. And it's just a real chore to get through.
Yeah. It's really hard. It's really hard to watch.
So that's that.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So, but fortunately, we have X-Men the animated series, which was from Sal and I's heyday as children. So we're nostalgic for it. It's easier to get through. I was talking to a friend and I was telling him that. I was like, instead of Amazing Friends, we're doing X-Men the animated series. He's like, that might be tough too. And I'm like, I get what you're saying, but you're wrong. That's it. Comparatively, X-Men the animated series is Shakespeare.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we're on episodes. This is a special one. We're not doing our normal, obviously, because we're halfway through it and we haven't done any of our normal stuff. So normally we read comments, leave comments on this episode, share them the 400th episode so they can get caught up on all our other episodes. As always, if you want to leave review or 5-star reviews on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you go, we appreciate it. But let's talk about look to the past to look forward to the future, because I did want to. I have you both here, experts in your respective fields in the entertainment world. And I wanted to look back at what Sam and I were talking about 8 years ago in 2016 and kind of compare that to now and where we might be in the future. So here are some of the topics we covered in 2016 on Only Stupid Answers. Episode 2, we were talking about Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition.
Okay.
I still maintain better than the theatrical one, but, that's
it's a low bar.
Yeah, it's a low bar. It's a low bar.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never seen the Ultimate Edition. I don't know how much more ultimate it could be.
Oh.
Yeah, it is better. Roxy, have you seen the Ultimate Edition?
Yeah. I was hosting DC Movie News at that time.
Okay, yeah. So do you agree that it is better than the theatrical version of Batman v Superman?
Yeah.
They
I do, and I did.
There's a few extra context pieces. I think there's actually scenes where Superman's Clark Kent in it that it's like, nice. That's nice.
Yeah. Although I do vividly recall at the end of Man of Steel, by the time I remember when the Sky Laser dubstep machine was going off, I just turned to my wife Tiffany and I was like, I don't care about anything that's happening on screen right now. And she was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
But by the end, when like Henry Cavill is Clark Kent, he just looked like The Rock as Superman, as Clark Kent in an SNL sketch. Like he was like, hi, I'm Clark Kent, and I'm too cool to be a dork.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, I found it condescending.
Yeah.
But so making him more Clark Kent made it sounded unpleasant.
Okay, see, as we're talking about it now, I'm able to remember. What it does is it adds context to why Superman's pissed at Batman. Okay. Because there's a whole subplot in the movie. Obviously, Batman's branding people because of Zack Snyder reasons. But there's a whole subplot. I think somebody dies and they think Batman's like killed somebody in prison. Basically, it adds backstory to Lex Luthor's machinations to make Superman angry, and it's like, oh, context. That's great.
That's helpful.
Anyway, Pokemon Go was one of the episodes in the 2016. I think. Still going strong, Pokemon Go. I remember it was the hot stuff 8 years ago.
It's falling.
Is that the game where you walk around and catch them? I never played that, but wow, that's still happening.
People are still using it.
Granted, time is very fluid now, but I want to say pretty recently, I remember seeing people walk. No, this had to be pre-pandemic. So like 2019, people like walking around at getting hotspots and stuff like that. I feel like the pandemic had to have been pretty hard for games like Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Okay, just gonna rapid fire some of these. The original Suicide Squad movie. Interestingly, we had an episode on aliens, not any of the movies, just the topic aliens. Which is funny because that's been coming up more recently again.
The franchise or no?
No, the aliens, are they out there? That sort of thing. I should re-listen to that episode. What was Sam and Mai's takes on that? I don't remember anymore.
Curious.
Yeah.
Luke Cage season 1. It looks like based on the titles, that was the time 2016 was when Flash did its Flashpoint episodes, which were not great. For some reason we're obsessed with trying to do Flashpoint, but not doing it.
It was like a 3-story arc or something.
Yeah, it was like 3 episodes. Really yeah. I actually, Roxy, it might have been like an episode and like by now we're done, but maybe some after effects of it. And it's like, okay, then why?
Being like, what? That was fast. Yeah. Okay.
Flashpoint? What? Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I want to say that was one of the better seasons of that show.
That was neat.
Doctor Strange came out, if the titles of 2016 were to be believed. Arrow did its Heroes vs. Aliens crossover. I would say Invasion. I still think that's my favorite of the crossovers they did.
Really? Not even Crisis?
Roxy, what did we think about? I wanted to say Crisis conceptually was cool and it was ambitious.
It was ambitious. And right?
Yeah, and it kind of predates everything Marvel's doing now.
Oh yeah,
but it was
multiverse and bringing back old actors and stuff like that.
So Crisis was 4 episodes, right? It was.
I think it might have been 5. I think it might have been 5. It was chunky.
Yeah, I think I remember liking it more than you. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But I think that you liked parts of it as well.
Yeah, I think it's a little lumpy, but because just of the nature of the thing, of what they're trying to do. I don't know there is a clean-cut way of doing something like that. Marvel,
I'm
take
trying to
notes.
remember Invasion, though. Invasion, what?
I think Invasion.
So it was the Dominators.
Yeah, and it was the Dominators, and also I think what made it so cool is it was the first time we had Legends. I want to say Supergirl. This might have predated Supergirl being able to do these crossovers, but previously it was just Arrow and Flash. This time it was Arrow and Flash and Legends, and it felt like it felt like pre-Endgame. It's like this is a comic book event. Like this is like it really, like now it's quaint, but at the time I'm like this. I can't believe we're doing this.
But we were hosting Super TV Showdown at this time, DJ.
That sounds right. Was
Yeah.
that soon? Maybe because I don't remember when we started the Patreon. Other things that dropped in 2016, Moana, which is interesting because we're going to Moana 2 8 years later.
Wow. I can't believe it took that long.
It's weird that, not that necessarily that it took that long, but that it doesn't feel that long to me. When they're like, Moana 2, I'm like, yeah, Moana just came out.
We lost at least like 2 years of our lives, and like, and in a thing that shouldn't have felt like that. Like, we're still recovering. It's just not like recovering, like, you know, health-wise, although we are
kind of,
like,
psychologically
we're recovering. Like,
I have two questions on that. First of all, the Moana thing. What do you mean? I can't believe it took this long. None of the other Disney princesses, like there's not a Cinderella 2. There was not a There's not a.
But I guess now Disney.
Because it's a CG. Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked Disney, there was no Tangled 2 like immediately after.
Oh, true. Like, that we still don't have a Tangled 2. That's wild.
Well, Disney has like no regard for it. That's why, like in the parks, it's a bathroom. Like, there's.
What do you mean?
At least, you know how like in Disney World, Disneyland, they're always like tailoring areas to specific themes and ideas, and like maybe there's representation of their characters and universes, and there is in Disney World, at least, I don't know about Disneyland, but there's a bathroom in one of the parks that is Tangled themed.
Yeah,
that's the only representation.
Tangled.
Yeah,
I just think that with the Disney princesses, they do a pretty good job of not just rushing out sequels.
Yeah,
that's true.
I don't think we've ever seen them do that.
We did. They did crank out a Frozen 2.
But
that was Frozen, so
we got to get the bottom line here, folks. I mean, like Frozen, come on, let's go.
Was it cranked out? I think it was a couple of years afterwards.
It was a couple of years, but it wasn't 8.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
No, it wasn't 8. But just like they don't seem to be like, okay, let's go. They seem to give that a little more time. DJ, a little unrelated though, as we're speaking about the 2 years of our lives that we lost, and you have a child on the way.
Yes.
How are you going to tell your kid about the pandemic?
I don't know. It's going to be weird. Well, the weird thing, not to get into too dark territory, but it is weird. I don't know if you guys have the same thing. I'm like, there were people alive, adults now, that can drive and vote, that were not alive when 9/11 happened. That's wild to me. That's insane to think about. There are celebrities that were not alive when 9/11 happened. And it's going to be this weird...
They can drink, DJ. They can't just vote. I mean,
they are adults. Sensibly, on paper, they're adults, and they weren't alive. And it's just one of those things that it's like, this is going to be like when my parents had to explain the assassination of JFK to me. Like, by the way, I was alive for that thing. Yeah. It was crazy. Okay.
Yeah. I really hate that like all of our like JFK touchstones are existential.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like, oh, a thing happened. Yeah. 9/11 is a thing that happened, but like the pandemic is more like, well, yeah, like people, there was an illness, but like, it's hard to picture.
Yeah.
If you weren't there.
Yeah.
But I think it's so different. Like the way that you can explain JFK or 9/11, it was an incident.
Yes.
Like one incident isn't the right word. A horrible thing that happened.
Yeah.
One. The pandemic, how are you going to explain for 2 years we couldn't leave our homes? Like, it just sounds like we're in the fucking 1400s where like the plague, ancient times. I just can't imagine telling a child when you're trying to explain, when they come home from school, like, what was COVID? I guess they'll know the word like we know flu.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, this was this 2-year period. It was kind of longer than that, kind of short of that. When you need like years for school, like, what are the years of COVID? And it's like TBD. I don't know when are we going to describe that?
Yeah. But you're right in that it's also like, because it's still around. So they'll be like, wait, Dad, why did you guys
why'd you do that?
Why'd you quarantine for COVID? You're like, well, your variation is very diluted. You got to understand in our time, a lot of people died. Pointlessly,
we
mostly.
Just didn't know. We weren't sure. You know? Like they were like, I remember driving in my car out. Like I was like, I gotta get out. Just going out.
Yeah.
And during the lockdown, you know, I was like, I'm just gonna go out in the neighborhood, and it was great because like there were no cars, so it was just me. And I remember driving around, and it was like gorgeous out, you know. And I had the windows down because I'm just driving, because I'm going like at least 25 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And as I'm driving, I remember driving past another car, and they had their mask on in the car with the window closed, and they were giving me the finger.
Wow.
I had my window open. They were like, you irresponsible piece of shit. They were so mad at me. And I was like, I feel like we're taking it too far. And I don't want to say that because I was very much like, let's not like, but like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm in the car. I'm moving fast. I'm not going to sneeze at you. Like I feel like we're all taking it. Not that we're not taking it too far, but like at that point I was like, oh, we're like, we don't know. The point is we don't have.
It's one of those things that it's kind of like the bleed from. Here's how I'm going to frame it: the bleed from internet discourse into real life, where you've got I don't know this person's story, but they're picturing somebody that's going to yell at them about wearing a mask. Because I had people give me shit for wearing a mask, and it's like, fucking,
I got crap too.
You know, and so like that's probably what that person's responding more to whatever that memory is in their head than to you.
Was the thing.
You know what I mean? And so
it's this weird or something like that I was going off to spread the disease.
And that's the thing that I don't think we've quite. Obviously, disease is still there, but I don't think we've quite tracked yet. Is how they broke our brains, our everything. But it's not even that, because you go back to 2016. It's like looking back at the past few years. It's like. Shit just got broke, man. Shit. Yeah. What were you going to say, Roxy?
No, I hear you. I think that number one, I will never forget I was shooting Always Lola in Ohio. Ohio is very purple. And I was wearing a mask to set, and I stopped at the coffee shop. I had a mask on, and this guy looked at me and goes, "Fucking cockroach."
Wow.
And I was like, huh. Yeah. Just like kept it pushing. Just thought to myself, that's an interesting response.
Yeah.
Somebody in a mask in a coffee shop during 2021.
Yeah.
What a weird time to say that to me. But the reason I think that it's going to be so interesting, though, the explanations is like, no matter what your kid ends up obsessed with, DJ, whether it is movies or television shows or sports or whatever, it affected every area. So like when they're doing their obsessive thing, which all kids do, or at least I did, where you're learning about something, and then there's this like 2-year gap, and it's like, wait, why didn't the NBA have the same amount of game? Wait, why did they stop here? Wait, but also happening right in the middle of like a lot of major protests. And like trying to explain, wait, so none of you guys can go outside, but there was thousands of people marching in the streets. Wait, what happened there? And like, okay, so there was no movies in theater, like theaters survived, but you just didn't go at all. No movies came out at all during this. Wait, so no televisions were filmed? Like no matter what they're into. Speaking of what we're into, it like fucked up everything.
So I'll explain, like, okay, so there was this disease that could be very life-threatening, and instead of coming together as a people, for some reason we decided to be mad at each other about everything about it. We decided that we're all just going to be mad at each other, and sorry, it's not. Hopefully by the time I'm having this conversation, it's better. It's better, hopefully, but we'll see.
We always it's just like you always hope for the best. Yeah, and that's like one of those things where it's like you always hope for the best and you plan for the worst.
Yeah. So for context, watching live, patreon.com/onlystupid answers. Leonard Kim says, putting it in perspective, Jenna Ortega wasn't born yet when 9/11 happened.
That's true.
Which is I just looking
now.
She's a child to me, so that doesn't like freak me out, because I've been watching her since she was, I guess, like 16, so she's still 16 in my head. And when she does press, she's so young seeming. Somebody should put this on a shirt, like, if she wasn't alive for 9/11, she's too young for you, bro.
Yeah. If you're a certain age, man, and they gotta know, they gotta have that context. So the last thing I wanted to mention from 2016 is we talked about Star Wars Rogue One.
Wow.
And our very first, but bread and butter, we tried to, I talked about how we started with, this was kind of growing out of our work together on Superhero Roundup. But we wanted, one of the reasons you guys asked only stupid answers is we wanted to just talk about whatever. I didn't want to be pinned down to just superhero shit. Exactly. But our first episode we ever did, because it was a question he and I got pretty consistently before that, was how do you get into comics? And so, Sal, real quick, since we have you with us today, what does that look like 8 years later? Maybe it's too early to say post superhero boom, just like it's a little early to say post COVID, but what does that landscape look like? How do people, is there what's a good entryway into that?
There's so many great entryways to comics, and they've always been there, and it hasn't really changed too much. Only in as much as like the comic book industry. It's funny because like during the pandemic, for example, like all the industries had to shut down, but the comic book industry didn't.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yep.
Right? Like, well, like the publishers were still like, oh my god, everything's remote. We could keep making stuff.
Yeah.
But the printers had to, because people didn't know. People weren't sure what they could and couldn't do. The printers were like, so like things, shipping was a concern.
Going to the shop, like how are you actually going to get, if you go to the shop, what does that look like?
I will tell this quick story. This has nothing to do with that necessarily with what you asked, but it's tangentially related. There was a shop that I work with that is niche related. I don't want to get into the specifics about what shop it is. Normally I would promote it, but in this case, it's a personal story. But like that shop that I was working with, I work with a number of shops when I buy stuff, when I just promote things, and they had like a very niche kind of like concept with their comic book store, and they were like, and it was during the pandemic, and they had problems with rent and shipping, and I was like, and they had all this inventory, and I was like, why don't you make blind boxes? Blind box your inventory and then put it up on the website and be like, yo, you're going to get a bunch of stuff. And it could be like, you could get the like box A, box B, like kind of like bento boxes, like you know where you're getting, and then you can get like the grab bag box. You don't know what you're going to get, but you're going to get at least $100 value and charge like $150 something. You know what I mean? And that like helped keep the store alive.
Yeah.
And there were so many of those stores where like I had that idea, talked to them about it. They implemented it immediately. It worked really well for them. I told my other shop about it, and I was like, hey, you guys should do blind boxes, like sell, and that helped a lot. And it kind of kept going. And so like comic book stores, the smart ones, the innovators, or the hungry were like creating new opportunities to get comics in people's hands, because at that point, it's like, well, I've watched everything. I've played all the games with my kids. I want to get back. A lot of people wanted to get back into comics, and they were like, how do I get back in? What do I do? How do I start? And I mean, it really is how you consume content. If you are the kind of guy or girl or whatever who goes to the movies rather than like watches streaming, then you're probably going to want to go to comic book stores and get like the material there. But more likely, like you could read digital, you could read physical. But I always ask somebody who's like, I want to get into comic books, or I hear comic books are cool. Where do I start? And I go, well, what kind of movies do you like?
Yeah.
Because everybody likes movies. And it's one of those things where like comics are so niche, and we don't think they are, because everybody knows what a comic book is. They influence the billion-dollar movie industry that we have today.
Yeah.
And and every character from a comic book is on every scrap of purchasable merchandise.
Yeah.
So it's like, how could you imagine? But comic books specifically, always going to be niche, always going to be, there's a glass ceiling when it comes to like how much the comic book industry will make. I'll give you an example. The comic book industry collectively makes about $1 billion a year.
Yeah.
$1 billion a year. One Doctor Strange movie will make $1 billion a year, but the entire comic book industry, Dark Horse, Marvel, DC, Boom Studios, Valiant, IDW, everybody, $1 billion.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But anyway, I say, like, what kind of movies do you like? What kind of things are you interested in?
What's the age of the person that's typically asking you this question?
It really ranges. Most of the time, it's an adult. Usually, it's like someone who's in their like 20s and 30s. But I've also seen like teenagers who've asked. I've seen mostly parents who are like, "How do I get my kid into comic books?"
Yeah. Okay.
And then it's just about finding the right like applicability. When it comes to kids, there's a ton of YA comics. There's a ton of like comics made for kids. But it's. I found that it's not just about what's in it, because one Christmas I actually gifted all my friends comic books themed to their personalities, and none of them got into comic books afterwards. I was like, I know what you're gonna like. You're like Ex Machina. You're a New York City guy. You're gonna love this and like this.
But they did read the one that you gave them, or they didn't even read it.
I believe that I would be willing to say probably 50% read the books I gave them, and then the other 50 gave them away. Which and they're personal friends of mine. But I found that it's not just about like the topics; it's about the format itself, and that's why like manga is always on the subject list when it comes to like how to make comic books more ubiquitous. And so DC's responding, and I mean Marvel responded with that when they made smaller books as well, but DC is doing this huge initiative right now, and it feels like I'm working for DC right now, but I'm not, I promise. But they make these books that are manga sized, but they're of their seminal graphic novels. Like they're books like Watchmen and Hush and Batman Hush and so many books that are specific gateways to characters or the worlds about those characters in the format that anyone under the age of 40 is going to gravitate towards, statistically speaking.
That's so weird because you wouldn't think that those, because other than content, manga format wise isn't that different, but you're 100% right. And I do think DC has always been pretty good about trying to, maybe because it's like, love it or hate it, they're always kind of playing catch up to Marvel. So they've always been more innovative with, they've got a lot of, when you talk about YA, they've got a lot of YA graphic novels that are specifically no continuity. I'm thinking about a lot of the Teen Titan ones they do. That's just like, hey, here's just this story in kind of like a YA format with these characters. They're coming out with a new, and as of this recording, they are not out yet, but that new Absolute line with a bunch of new brand new continuity, new number ones. We'll see how it hits, but they've always been pretty good about like, let's try and create easy access points for people.
Yeah, they're always worried about it, and DC will always almost always throws their hat over the wall first, and then Marvel waits and sees. Marvel's like, we're big enough, we're solvent enough, we don't need to innovate, we can wait for others to innovate, and then if it works, like we can let them market test their decisions, and then we'll just do what they did. If we feel like it, which we normally don't need to anyway, because Marvel has always dominated the market share, even if they haven't innovated in a long time, and that's just how it is. It's just one of those things.
What is the 40-year-old line that you're drawing? Going back to you saying
people who remember a time before like streaming is more like what I'm thinking about. Like there's people who are like the instant gratification period of like a threshold. I guess
I think millennial down is pretty dialed into manga, which again I'd be interested to figure out what is it about manga that like
that's over my head even. I don't really know what you guys mean.
Well, in terms of manga, like the Japanese cultural influence of pop culture. I mean, we can thank Toonami and
true.
other massive influences. I mean, even like Sailor Moon. In like the early 80s. Was, early 90s actually, but influenced the zeitgeist of American pop culture mindset to the point where it's normalized and it's expected, and there's an understanding that you're going to get something like different, something that is familiar enough, like a comic book, but different enough culturally and story wise that will maybe like surprise me.
Well, and I think I don't want to keep going too far down this rabbit hole, but to sort of answer your question, I think, Roxy, to be really reductive, manga is Japanese comic books, but it's done in more of a digest.
People under 40, because of streaming,
I just use streaming as an example, but it's like because
manga is huge. I remember working at not a comic shop, bookstore. I worked at Barnes & Noble for a long time. The manga section was massive, so people gravitate, millennials specifically, younger readers, not obviously millennials isn't necessarily younger now, but
Gen Z now.
But
are you guys saying because of the art, because of the style of it?
No, that's my question. I don't know.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you exactly why.
Yeah.
You want to read Spider-Man. Where do I start? You need somebody like me to go like, okay. Well, and you need somebody who actually like genuinely take that question seriously, as opposed to be like you get a comic book retailer who, and you hope that they're a good one, that they like are a good ambassador to the culture. But even then, you might lose them just by saying like, okay, well, what do you like? What are your personal interests? What's your sensibilities like? Because it's been one story for 80 years. So, and there's and there's always like rises and falls and restarts and refreshes.
Yeah.
With manga, I want to get into My Hero Academia. Well, you start with volume 1.
Yeah.
And it ends with the finale of My Hero Academia, and it's one book the whole time. So when I say streaming, I mean binging.
Yeah.
I mean like, I can, if I want to be the expert or even just read Spider-Man from beginning to end, even if you could arguably read all of Amazing Spider-Man from 1962 to 2024, there are going to be gaps in that reading because there are stories that moved into Web of Spider-Man or Spectacular Spider-Man. Happened in an event or something. Or an event will have influenced what's happening in Amazing Spider-Man. So it's a little confusing and weird. And even then, like, you've had, 60 different creators working on Amazing Spider-Man from 1962 to 2024. With manga, My Hero Academia, it's one guy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how when we have these conversations, my brain starts to really fucking hurt. Like, I am so overwhelmed by what you guys are talking about. It's giving me anxiety.
Well, sorry. Yeah. So
but I don't mean it like you should be sorry. I mean it like this is why people ask questions like, what's an entry point? And this is why, going back to something that DJ and I have been talking about relentlessly, why I'm such a fan of rebooting things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's like we need fucking fresh entry points for people.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we need. I need DJ's kid to be able to have the same experience that we had as kids. Which was fresh entry points to things. That's what I want, at least.
And to that point, also with manga, Roxy, let's say you weren't as enmeshed in this community as you are, and so let's say you didn't. You've talked about your sister, I believe, doesn't care about any of the superhero junk, right? Okay. So if you want to get into American comic books, if let's say your sister want to get into American comic books, tough. That's pretty much, not that it's the only game in town, but it's either that's kind of your jam. Manga, if your sister's like you and is a lover of love and a shipper of ships, you could name dozens of manga that's literally just romance soaps. Like that's it. It's not, nobody punches anybody or whatever. And I think that's maybe another thing that people gravitate towards manga is ubiquity of types of stories. And also because they're always telling different ones, there's a lot of innovation within. It seems, I should say I'm not much of a manga reader, anime watcher, but from the outside, it always like, by the way, the previous biggest anime in the world was about a bunch of people in an apocalyptic world fighting giants. The new biggest one is about a guy with a chainsaw for a head. And it's like, you know what, man? Dope. Like, that's good for you that you keep doing new stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and even then it does sound like a little, when we reduce it down to that concept, it's like, I mean, isn't that just like a kid who got bit by a radioactive spider or a guy who took a serum from a Nazi and now he's America's totem? But there's any number of ideas that are boiled down, but manga, at least there's no barrier to entry. And that's the major, and it's always been the stumbling block and the roadblock and like whatever barrier you want to create between like everyone reading comic books and the industry. And it's just accessibility and a clear defined entry point. And of course, I would also argue that like in terms of manga and anime, Japan didn't have like a Bible thumping lunatic in the 1950s to create an international stigma against the format.
Good point. Good point.
Seduction of the Innocent, this book that was created, that was made specifically about like destroying comics in the 50s, talking about like they were corrupting children and making them, join gangs and have like unprotected sex with each other. Like it was, if you read a comic book on a subway, you are in the back of your mind, there's a thought that's going to be that someone's going to make fun of me. And that's because of the American. Even today. Even today. Yeah, I don't think it's nearly as pervasive. But like I thought that we were like in an age of enlightenment. Certainly I've been led to believe by Gen Z and arbiters of culture to tell me that like kids and any kid under the age of 20 will laugh when I say this. I was led to believe, because I've been out of teaching for a long time. I used to be a teacher and I got out to do this and I'm much happier. But I was led to believe that slurs and bullying and clicking, like click
Yeah,
culture,
clicks, yeah.
A thing of the past. That it is an ancient, like anachronistic concept that doesn't exist in today's schools and schoolyards. That kids
You're
are
saying
enlightened.
comic books led you to believe that, or
No, I'm saying that arbiters are like people, children,
cultural,
like,
yeah.
People tell me that like kids aren't being kids anymore. They're more enlightened and but they're not.
Yeah.
Like kids will still like make gay jokes, even though I've heard that's like that's completely impossible.
Yeah.
Like I've literally heard them.
Yeah.
Make those. You were reading a comic book on the train that a kid would make fun of you.
I think anyone would make fun of you. I think the fact is that there's no limit, because you'd think like, oh well, each generationally it'll be bred out, but the reality is, people are people and America is America.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a cultural thing. We like societally we make fun of nerds. And like, right, like, and I'm a nerd, I could say that, but like,
yeah,
but
you need somebody to make fun of. In America, we need somebody to make fun. We love to punch down in America. It's like our thing. It's like our thing.
But in Japan, manga and anime are like they're just any other form of literature. It's just there was no concentrated effort in like a formative period in our in their culture's history to demonize it.
Yeah.
So as a result, they got to go into the future, into utopia of accepting comics as a thing, as an art form, or as a legitimate form of entertainment.
I think what we're trying to say is there's no societal issues in Japan whatsoever. So with
that,
clearly no, of course, it's great. But now,
truth.
Let's look ahead a little bit. Even though now that you know a concept of. There's a lot of I don't think we actually answered that question. Point is, there's a lot there's a lot of ways to get into it. We've got a bunch of episodes talking about it, but one of the ways people have paid more attention to comics is the movies. We've made our bread and butter talking about those super movies. We do have some looks into the future if we were to get out our crystal ball and look ahead. We do have you guys probably saw this headline too. They're like, first look at the Thing in the new Fantastic Four movie. I'm like, is it just what's his face in the pajamas, in the CG pajamas? No, actually. It is this image that I've put on the screen if you're watching the video. If you're not, it's actually a little video. People, the figure is standing pretty motionless, so it is unclear to me if it is an actor or if it is a prop that is standing there. But the general consensus seems to be there is an actor in what looks like a pretty good Thing outfit that it looks pretty obviously there will be CGI put onto this.
Yeah.
Because the face doesn't look like it moves.
No, I think I saw somebody compare it to having like a full-sized raccoon doll on
they
set.
do the same thing with the Sonic movies. Yeah.
The Sonic movies, like it's a stand-in, or because I think there was a guy. I think I saw like actually a video of like going over a person's face.
Yeah.
But I think it's supposed to be like, I guarantee they will not CG over that person.
Mm-hmm.
He is there to catch light, and to show you what light would look like if it bounced off of that thing, so that the CG department can completely render an entire another human person.
Yeah, Roxy, what did you see this? What do you think about this?
I thought it felt so claustrophobic.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
You just think about this person and just like the amount of hours in the sweltering heat and under the. It's what I think about when I go to Disney too, and you see 105-degree days that have the whole outfit, and you just like pray that they had enough money and put a fan in there for you or whatever. But that honestly, that was my first thought. Was like, God damn it! Like, I honestly would rather more CG to protect human beings if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
But then I saw some people just like thinking that this looked like shit, and then I think those people are stupid. No, that's not nice. I don't know that they're stupid as much as uninformed on how things work.
Yeah, fair. They think this is actually what it's going to look like in the movie. I'm like, no. Yeah,
this has just like no gauge on that at all.
Yeah,
I would say like almost maybe zero. So I was really thinking about whoever that poor actor is.
Yeah, because people were like Eben Moss Bachrach, and like that's not him in that costume. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
right?
That's a big joke.
Yeah,
no way.
Yeah.
So
Pedro Pascal's not in the Mandalorian armor, and that looks way more comfortable than whatever this is.
Yes, chef.
I do want to say this though, if this is, and we've seen, because there's a promotional artwork of that they've been using to promote the movie, which this does look similar to that. If this is what a glimpse of what the Thing will look like in the movie, very down. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Agreed. Yeah. Yes.
I like the big rock brow. I like I like that he's wearing clothes. I don't know why I like that, but I think it's cool. We also got to look at. So Marvel released, and actually looked like it leaked early, but Marvel released, I guess they're doing a movie or something that celebrates 85 years of Marvel. I don't think it's just this trailer, but they released a trailer that has a lot of clips from their movies, including very brief blink and you'll miss it looks at some of their upcoming projects. Here's one from Daredevil Born Again. For the listeners out there, it's just Charlie Cox in his Daredevil costume looking over his shoulder, but his eyes glow red.
I love it. I love that. It could, I don't know if they're glowing. I didn't see it in motion, but like they could also just be catching light or something like that. But
I think I've seen
that cowl looks good.
I think I've seen in the set photo, the one set photos people have gotten, that looks like there's an LED in there. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't get mad at me.
No.
Too late.
This is a photo of Charlie Cox. So what is the first thing I look at? Obviously, his lips. What's going on there?
I think he got punched. Maybe he's got a fat lip, but they're pretty pronounced. I gotta tell you.
It's looking like they've seen better days. Yeah. I'm like, that's not his most kissable lips moment.
No.
I do like that for some reason Daredevil is the hero we'll let get punched. We'll let him look hurt.
Yeah, he takes it.
I think this looked awesome though. Yeah. I'm so excited to see him. I'm just so excited to see him again.
Of the things, I wanted to ask you guys this because we're going to talk about a couple other things. But I was like, is this the one I'm most excited for? And I think the correct answer for me is this is the one I want to be the most excited for. But I'm
so nervous for you, DJ. I'm so nervous for you because if you don't like this, like, you're screwed.
What will you like?
Yeah, well, because Roxy's not wrong, because I've been pretty open about the multiverse stuff isn't working for me. Yeah, so more street level stuff is what I'm holding out for.
And if you don't like this, it's like, what does Marvel have for you at this time?
Yeah, maybe it's nothing.
I am nervous because I've been hearing some behind the scenes hubbub that I don't feel open to disclose, but it's the same stuff that we've been hearing where it's like reshoots, overhauls, and it's like,
and I will say though, I remember hearing, I mean, not about these new hubbubs, but certainly, they were shooting the show. Like this show was like they had episodes in the can for another version of this show that, for all intents and purposes, might have blown.
Yeah.
We're getting now, and I'm like, when I heard that they had like episodes in the can and they were like, we're going to go back to formula. Yeah. I was like, that really sucks. Like, I was like, that shows that they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And while that does show that they don't know what they're doing, because how could you go forward and make show? Yeah. And then go, oh, actually, this isn't working in any way. It's like, there's a billion people working on this thing and they're all like, you've at least a few barriers to get to shooting, right? Like how hard it is to get people to show up and shoot this damn thing, and then to get to the point where we're like shooting a show and go, you know what, the show kind of sucks. Especially because like the first movie I ever saw that I knew movies could be bad was Ninja Turtles 3. In the theater, and I was like, oh no, I thought.
How old were you?
I don't recall. I definitely like it had to be single digits.
Yeah.
But you thought it was a bad movie.
I was gonna say bad movie. Like I knew that money went into movies, and I knew that they cost like incalculable amounts of money to a person like me. And I was like, but why would they spend so much money if it is this bad?
Yeah, for me, that was Batman and Robin, where I was like, wait, can movies not be good? Hold on.
Right? And like, isn't that kind of irresponsible? Like that, but that mentality is still in me today, where like I go, you know how many millions of dollars and like people were paid, like people have production shirts with a show that doesn't exist anymore. But that said, thank God they did. Like, I'm actually kind of impressed. Like, I would actually be more excited if in the middle of Ninja Turtles 3, they were like, you know what, guys, this sucks. Let's pack it in.
Yeah. Let's
just
call
go
it
back to formula. Let's start over again.
Like, and it's weird too with Daredevil because I feel like all you need to do is look.
How do you mess that up?
Is look at the Netflix show and be like, the bones are here. Maybe make it a little tighter narratively. Yeah. Maybe we're in the MCU. Let's throw in a couple. Let's tie it in a little bit tighter.
Pop in,
and then you're kind of good. Because I think my main issue, if I were to go back in the Wayback Machine to the Netflix Daredevil show, I think my main issue was, like a lot of those Netflix shows, because their big thing was always been, it's like a 13-hour movie. And it's like, well, I hate to break it to you, a 13-hour movie is too long of a movie. It's not a movie. And so like a little, you tighten that up. What about, so Roxy, how are you feeling? Have you, because I know we've talked about this, you don't love the set leaks. Have you been trying to steer clear of Daredevil set leaks?
As much as possible, yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't, it's not just I don't love set leaks. I don't love leaks in general.
Yeah.
That's fair.
In general, I don't like it when things leak out of me either. I'm with you.
No, I just mean like I don't love trailer leaks. Yeah. I don't love scene, it's not just like set leaks specifically. Yeah. Because it's just not usually what they intended. And then people start making opinions on, I think about future projects of mine DJ or yours DJ or yours Sal, and you think about like if somebody saw it not completed, and it might look like a bag of dicks. Yeah. So I try to avoid them because then it also makes me start my mind. You're only human, so when you see it, you can be like, oh, okay, I know for a fact that this isn't the end result, but then still you start thinking about, but what does this mean?
Yeah,
so I do a pretty good job of trying to avoid them. But that doesn't keep me from seeing people's reactions to them.
Yeah. Well, here's my main hopeful thing. I have seen the set leaks of the new costume, and it does look pretty dope. So it's like if the costume is indicative of the show, then we're in good hands. Speaking of costumes, is that my segue? This is another thing. They actually posted this image, I think, on social media. This is from the new Thunderbolts, but the video version of this was in that 85 Years of Marvel trailer. In it, we have Red Guardian, we have Ghost, we have Sebastian Stan back as Bucky, Florence Pugh back as Yelena, and then U.S. Agent rounding out. And the one thing, here's my two things. As Roxy talked about a minute ago, I am more excited for the non-multiverse stuff, so I really want to be excited for Thunderbolts. But when I think Thunderbolts, this isn't the lineup I picture in my brain. And it also feels worth noting, of the 5 people in this image, 3 of them are Cap clones. So that's weird to me. That's a little weird.
That is a little weird. Yeah, that is a little weird. Yeah. At least Ghost is in it. I really liked the idea of Ghost. I love Ghost's powers, and I wanted to see Ghost like have a personality and do something really cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't kill her at the end of the movie, I was like, oh my God, we could keep her.
We did one. We did. It's similar with, they did a big swing with Taskmaster on Black Widow.
Big swing.
Let's say it was hit or miss. It's like maybe in Thunderbolts, Taskmaster's still around, maybe. Roxy, what do you think about this Thunderbolts lineup?
I'm excited that Florence Pugh is front and center.
Yeah, she's great.
I think she looks awesome. I think she is awesome. I think she's going to kick butt. And I know that this is not a full reboot like I have been pushing for. However, one of my biggest problems with OG MCU is just their lack of ability to launch ScarJo and just keeping her on the back burner for everything that she was. Yeah. And so it's nice to see that in this new iteration, even though it's not a new iteration, but this new team up, that maybe we are focusing on the women. Yeah. And we do see her really prominently here. And usually those are not just by accident. Yeah. Typically when those are the very thought out, where are we placing people? And obviously she's very short as well. Yeah. But I think we are going to see her pretty front and center, which excites me because I also think I don't want to say the most talented. They're all talented, but she's on par, if not my favorite of the actors.
Yeah. I loved her in Hawkeye, man. I will occasionally revisit the scene with the macaroni, and I'm just like, this is such a fun. I'm like, this is what I wanted Marvel to be all the time.
Yeah,
like,
Hawkeye's a great example because I feel like two of the clearest wins in the post-Endgame era are Florence Pugh and Haley Steinfeld. It's like, yes, correct, nailed it, good job.
More, please, yes.
Okay, we're gonna end. There's also a brief shot of Ironheart, but I tried to get a screen grab, but it's muddy as hell. It's her in kind of a junk hero armor flying through the streets.
They take it away from her or something.
Yeah, but it's good for that actress that they're still making the Ironheart show. I do appreciate that Marvel. I mean, we're getting that Agatha show, but I do kind of appreciate that instead of DC, where it's like, actually, we're gonna get rid of it and delete it and pretend it never existed. It's like, no, we made it. It's coming out. All right, we're good. We're putting it out. So it's like good for those actors at least. But the last shot we got is for Captain America: Brave New World. It is a clear shot of Harrison Ford as Red Hulk.
Yep. Okay, so. I hate how much it looks like Harrison Ford. Like,
yeah,
I don't need the Hulk to look like the actor that's playing the Hulk. I'm so used to it not doing that.
Yeah.
But this is like, I guess because Harrison Ford has like fallen so far from like a beloved actor that I am excited to see in things to grumpy old man.
Yeah.
Like, he's just so grumpy.
Do you not watch television? Usually, is that not your thing? Like, did you watch Shrinking or 1923?
No, I didn't watch those, but I heard he liked making one of those.
He's good at both of them. One of them is better than the other, but he is good at both of them.
They're both excellent shows. I think he's loving Shrinking.
Yeah.
But I think that might make you less nervous about seeing him. He's super funny in Shrinking.
Yeah.
I liked him in Hollywood Homicide. I know that movie's 20 years old, but still.
Yeah, no, I just mean recently he seems to be like
enjoying doing
the piss.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. I like that. I'm glad. I mean, that certainly makes me less nervous.
Here's the thing that I feel weird about this is that I've never cared about Red Hulk being Thunderbolt Ross, and the actor that played Thunderbolt Ross passed away, and I'm like, we could just move on to other. It could just be somebody else, and it's like, no, we're recasting him. It's Harrison Ford, and also in this clip, he is becoming Red Hulk. You know, the president does his speeches behind a specific like podium. It's like he ducks down and becomes Red Hulk after the podium. I'm like, this could be silly. This could be really dumb. It could be cool. It could be like a cool moment, but could also be really dumb. But I didn't hate that trailer. And I am secretly hoping that I don't know if I've said this on the show before. I am secretly hoping in Captain America 1, we establish that the super soldier serum affects people differently. That's why Red Skull looks like Red Skull and Steve Rogers looks like Steve Rogers. And we establish in Avengers, like in the comics, that the Hulk came from experiments with the super soldier serum. And I like to take that same concept. Like, that's why the Hulk is the way he is.
Red.
Or like, that's the why. But Bruce Banner Hulk, because that's what's inside him, just like what's inside Steve is the most beautiful man ever, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, now we've connected all those ideas and we have a Hulk that is red, like the Red Skull, and I hope that means something, but I don't know that it will. I don't know that it will.
I don't know. Did you notice that right after the Trump attempted assassination, they cut the shot from the trailer of Isaiah Bradley shooting at the president?
I mean, yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do. It's one of those
things where I'm like, oh, the whole rhythm of the trailer just changed.
Yeah. That's what you do. That's what you do. Roxy,
I was like, whoa, they changed it.
How are you feeling about Red Hulk?
I think he looked great. I'm super excited because I love Harrison Ford right now. I think he looks like Hulk and Harrison Ford, but red. I don't know. Like, to me, sometimes there's just too much noise around images or flashes of things. And it's like, how could you hate the way this looks?
Right.
It's I don't know. To me, this looks good. This looks fine. This looks tiny. We will see.
So
may I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Will they kill him in this movie?
Yes. I don't know. Because there's rumors that he's supposed to be in because I can't remember. Sal, you can remind me in the comics. Do the Thunderbolts get their name from Thunderbolt Ross? Is that a thing?
Not initially.
Oh, okay.
They call themselves that. Okay.
Yeah.
Really quick. At some point or another in the 90s, the most of the like primary heroes, mostly the Avengers, die and they get shunted off to a pocket reality. So there's a world without the heroes, even though there's still Daredevil and Spider-Man. and the X-Men, but nobody likes them because they killed all the heroes. As a result, Baron Zemo and a bunch of D-list supervillains decide, let's pretend to be superheroes, and then we'll gain the public's trust and then take over the world.
Yeah.
And so it's literally the Masters of Vengeance wearing superhero costumes, and they call themselves the Thunderbolts as a kind of like fun, flashy name.
Yeah.
They have a little like slogan and everything, justice like lightning. And the reveal is one of the greatest moments in Marvel Comics history.
Yeah.
And because they're just like, well, the Avengers are being drawn by Rob Liefeld. Here's these new characters. And then like around issue 4 or whatever, they're like, boom.
Yeah.
It's so great. So that's where the name comes from. They did redo it where like, I think Red Hulk and Punisher and Elektra, like a bunch of characters who are red.
Yeah. They like Punisher's skull is red for some reason. All that stuff. Yeah.
By the way, I kind of loved that run. I know people hated it, but I kind of loved it. But I think that one is named after. It's like running the team.
Somebody was like, yeah, because Thunderbolt Ross should be in Thunderbolts because the team was named after him. I'm like, when? I guess maybe. I don't
like phase 2, like maybe phase 2 or 3 of the team.
Yeah.
It is spearheaded by Ross, and so as a result, it's called Thunderbolts. Like it's incidentally called Thunderbolts, but yeah.
Roxy, are we gonna get like a Solo name moment where, like, when in Solo he's like, "This is how I got my name"? Are we gonna? Is that gonna be a?
Yeah, I think we're gonna go with Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're just a real Thunderbolt squad here. Roxy, do you think Harrison Ford's in this for the long haul, or he's like, I'll do one movie, I'll do one?
I definitely more see him just doing one based on the decisions he's making in his career right now, where it seems like he's really trying to do. I don't know this man.
Yeah.
Let me tell you guys what I think's going on in his mind.
Yeah.
Even though I've never met him, don't know anybody who does know him. We do share a birthday, so I feel like we share a soul.
You're connected.
That's dope.
I think that he is like, I am in the back half of my acting career, and I want to do things I have not done. What have I not done? Okay, let me do this random psychologist comedy. Let me do this 1923 cowboy period TV show. Let me be the Hulk and see how that goes. Like, I think he is box checking right now for funsies, which I love. Yeah. He's done so many things. He is 2 of the biggest characters of all time. Nobody will ever be able to take that away from him.
Yeah,
true.
And I think that he's really right now trying to like tick, 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 did that, going after Emmys, going after funsies, just like enjoying himself. So I think it'd be really weird at this moment in his career to be like, let me sign up for the next 10 movies. This is what I'm doing. It just doesn't seem like what's in his soul right now. Again, not my friend, so I don't know, but just based off of the decisions he's making, it seems like this is going to be short-lived, which is cool.
That's fair. Yeah, I think you're really right. I mean, like, the fact is, Hugo Weaving clearly only signed on to be Red Skull the one time, and even though they locked him into like a Marvel contract, he was like, oh, just whatever the penalty clause is, just pay it. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Like I could see Harrison Ford being like, no, we're gonna put Harrison Ford in here, and I bet he did sign a contract that's like, you have to be in the next 4 movies, and he's like, sure, like I'll just not.
Yeah. If you guys say so, I'm Harrison Ford, so I'll figure that out.
Exactly. I'll just fill out Yeah, I have a person that does that, like, that tells people no for me.
I have my no person. Well, I'll be interested to see 8 years from now how we're talking about this stuff. Roxy, prediction, 8 years from now, has Marvel rebooted?
Man, I think in 8 years from now, which is super duper not your question, but I'm thinking DC is going to be on top for the first time in a long time, because they're in a really good position right now.
I agree.
And Marvel and Star Wars, I don't know why. I look at them as the big 3. Yeah. I know that that's not fully fair to things like Lord of the Rings, which we will speak about later, or Harry Potter, or the other big titans. But it's Star Wars, Marvel, and DC to me. And by far and away, I'm most excited about the position DC's in right now. So I have a feeling in 8 years, when DJ Sal and I are still sitting here doing this show, and DJ's child has decided to join us.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to be talking mostly about DC. But do I think Marvel will have rebooted? No, I don't.
In 8 years. Okay. All right. No, siding with Hector a little bit.
Some people will have been recast, but like, I think that unfortunately, Hector has his finger on the pulse more than I do here. And Hector doesn't think that they will reboot in 50 years or 100 years. I disagree with that. Yeah. But I do think that they are going to drag this baby into, they are going to make us go to hell before they reboot.
Sal, 8 years from now.
Yeah, I think that they'll reboot, and like there'll be a soft reboot right after Secret Wars. I think that Secret Wars will be an opportunity for them to be like,
yes,
yeah, where they're gonna we're gonna keep what we keep. Like we're not gonna recast Ms. Marvel.
Yeah,
but Cap, Iron Man, and Thor are back, and they're younger, and they're hipper, and they're more down to be in things. I know what I want to see, and it has nothing to do with Marvel rebooting, but it's like, but in 8 years, I'd like to think that Spider-Man finally is free from Sony. I'd like to think that in 8 years, Sony goes, well, we lost Lord and Miller. They didn't even make a single effing thing with us when they took over the studio. Craven failed. We never got that Spider-Man versus Venom movie. And Marvel just goes, here's $3 billion.
Yeah.
It's over now.
So that's Sal's big hope. 8 years from now, Spider-Man. I do.
I think Roxy's right about DC. I think Marvel is going to be very surprised to see how few people go to see one of the next Avengers movies, and I think everyone's going to be very surprised about how successful DC is at approximating the enthusiasm we had for Marvel 5-6 years ago. 6-7 years.
Both of your points, I remember Marvel Comic-Con, a lot of the discourse coming out of Comic-Con, Marvel had major announcements about the two big Avengers, and all DC did was like, hey, here's our new logo. And everybody was talking about like, did DC win the convention? You know what I mean? And it's like
what?
Yeah. And so it's this I think, to Roxy's other point too, what reboot, whatever, it's a fresh, we're getting rid of all the baggage that we had before, and we're going in fresh, and that's a nice feeling to have.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
People like to be part of something.
It's strange because you think about the fact that, like, I actually happen to love Ben Affleck's Batman.
Yeah.
And I loved Gal's Wonder Woman. And I loved Ray Fisher's Cyborg, and I loved Momoa's Aquaman. And at times I loved Cavill's Superman. I was not ever a huge fan of this iteration of The Flash, which boded well for me, actually.
Yeah. It worked out.
But I was still happy when they decided to reboot.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you need to know this shit is not working.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's like, I think that was such a difficult decision, but they made it anyway, which is now allowing for the future that I think we deserve.
I'm excited for Superman, who part of his backstory isn't that he broke one of his nemesis' neck. I'm glad. I'm hopeful.
Man, I'm excited for a super. You know, my least favorite movie in the entire DCEU is Man of Steel. I fucking hated that movie.
Same.
I hated it. It keeps me up at night when you talk about, to me, the most egregious moment in any comic book movie ever is the dog moment.
Yeah.
Like it drives me nuts. I think it takes away the entire integrity of Superman's character. You guys have heard me talk about this a bajillion times, but the whole point is that you cannot save everyone. You chose to not save somebody because of your own morals. Like from there on, Superman was never going to be, not to sound like the pricks in the room, but like, not you guys, in space. But Superman was never going to be my Superman because that's not my Superman. My Superman doesn't watch his dad die and is just like, yeah, I know I could save you, but I'm just not gonna, because like that could have blowback on me though. And you like mentioned it to me that maybe I shouldn't, so I'm just not going to. That's then who he was.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, I'm just praying for a heart attack.
Or that he doesn't die. There's ones where Pa Kent's still around. There's versions of that.
Great.
If he does die, I'm praying for a heart attack.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm praying for an illness. I'm praying for a heart attack. I'm praying for him to live or for that.
Yeah.
Dear God, do not fucking let your dad die because you don't want to be caught. I can't stand you.
Leaving on
we're
a
not gonna see that.
cautiously optimistic note, if 2025, that's the next year, it gives me a good Daredevil show and a good Superman movie, I will be a happy kid. That would be so great. Let's wrap this up. Starting with you, Sal, where can the kids find you?
Well, you can primarily find me. I mean, a lot of times I'm over here, but also mostly I'm over at youtube.com/comic-pop and youtube.com/comic-pop returns, which is our podcast focused channel where we make live shows. And just recently we dropped a video that was an excerpt from a bigger show on another channel that was such a big, deep conversation. It ended up being its own show.
Yeah.
So check that out.
Check that out. Roxy, where can the kids find what you're working on?
You guys can find me everywhere at Roxy Stryer. I am in a movie that is hitting theaters September 13th. It's called Crust. I will keep you guys posted on if you can find this at a theater near you. I believe shortly after it will be VOD in case it isn't near you guys. But cool. I've seen a cut of this movie. It's awesome. DJ and I talked to Sean Whalen. Yep. So you guys already hopefully are invested in this. It's a really fun horror comedy. And you know, I made the final cut. You'll blink and you'll miss me, but I'm there. So.
Check that out. Please go check that out. You can find me everywhere that matters. The DJ Talks Trash. Check out my personal channel. I just did an interview with Christian Harloff. I've got one coming out with Michael Swaim soon. So check that out. But you can follow this channel everywhere that matters at Only Stupid Answers. But on Twitter/X.
Yank out the vowels from stupid.
Happy 400 episodes. Thank you all, everybody that's been watching, everybody that's been joining us, everybody that has been supporting this show at any point in its lifespan. Thank you. We couldn't do this without you. And we'll see you all next time.